Don't pay your rent a year in advance. Here's why landlords in many American cities ask new tenants to pay several months of rent up front, sometimes 3 or 6 months at once, especially if your credit score is not perfect. That could be $4,000 or $5,000, maybe more, handed over before you even get your keys. No real negotiation. Pay it or lose the apartment. But walk into a bank and ask for that same amount as a personal loan, even with a steady job, even with years of direct deposits showing up every 2 weeks, even with a decent credit score, and the bank will still make you wait. They will run your numbers. They will ask about your debt. They will check your history before they trust you with that much money. Think about what that means. A landlord you met one single time, in one showing, gets more trust and more cash from you up front than a bank gives you after years of watching your paycheck land every month. You do not run a background check on your landlord. You just pay, because that is how renting works. By the end of this, you will know exactly what that upfront rent is really costing you. David and Priya are the same age. They live in the same city. They take home almost the same paycheck every month. Both of them just signed new leases this year. David did what most renters do. He paid 6 months of rent up front, the standard move his landlord asked for. Priya did something different. She negotiated a monthly payment plan instead, though her landlord charged a slightly higher rent for that flexibility. On paper, David looks like the smart one. His total rent is lower. His landlord is happy. He barely has to think about rent for half a year. Priya pays more every single month for the same kind of apartment. So who actually made the better financial decision here? Let's run the actual numbers. Section 1. David hands over 6 months of rent in one lump sum and feels free of rent stress for half a year. No landlord calls, no monthly reminder. Just one big payment, and then quiet. Priya's landlord charges her extra for the comfort of paying monthly instead of all at once. That extra charge works out to about 15% more than what David pays for the same size apartment. So every single month, Priya is spending more than David is spending, at least on paper. Let's put real numbers on this. Say the apartment costs $2,000 a month under a normal lease. David pays 6 months up front, so he hands over $12,000 on day 1. Priya pays monthly, but with the 15% premium added, her rent becomes $2,300 a month. Over those same 6 months, she pays out $13,800. Right there, David looks like the clear winner. He paid $12,000. Priya paid $13,800 for the exact same 6 months in the exact same kind of apartment. That is an $1,800 gap in David's favor, just from the surface numbers. This is the part most people stop at. They see the total rent paid, they see David's number is smaller, and they close the book right there. David planned better. David saved more. David is the responsible one who paid in full and got a lower rate for it. Priya, on the other hand, looks like she is paying a penalty for not being ready to commit her cash all at once. If you stop the story here, that would be the whole lesson. Pay up front if you can. Avoid the monthly premium. Be like David. But money does not just sit still after you spend it. Every dollar you hold on to, instead of handing over early, is a dollar that could still be doing something for you. David gave up his $12,000 on day 1. Priya kept most of her cash in her own hands for months longer, even while paying that higher monthly rate. And that difference, the one nobody talks about at the leasing office, is where this story actually starts to change. Section 2. Let's check the numbers again, but this time month by month, starting from day 1. In month 1, David has already handed over his full $12,000. His bank account dropped in one single moment. He has $0 set aside for rent, because he does not need to. Rent is done. He can spend the rest of his paycheck on anything else, save it, invest it, or just relax, knowing no rent payment is coming for half a year. Priya, by month 1, has only paid $2,300, her first monthly payment with the premium added. She still has the rest of her rent money sitting in her own account. She has not given it away yet. It is still hers, even if she plans to hand most of it over eventually. By month 3, David is still sitting at zero rent stress, still fully paid up, still not thinking about his landlord at all. Priya has now paid 3 monthly installments, which adds up to $6,900 total. She still has money left in her account that she has not yet paid out, but she has also spent more per month than David did, because of that 15% premium. If you only look at the totals right now, the story has not changed. David is still ahead. He paid $12,000 for 6 months. Priya, if she finishes out those 6 months, will pay $13,800 for the same stretch of time. That gap of $1,800 is real, and it has not gone away. So at this point, it still looks like Priya made the weaker choice. She is paying extra every single month, just for the comfort of not paying it all at once. David locked in a lower rate and got it over with. Anyone watching these two friends right now would still say David played it smarter. But there is one thing sitting quietly underneath these numbers that nobody has looked at yet. David's $12,000 left his hands on day 1. Priya's money, the part she has not paid out yet, is still sitting in her account every single day that passes. And money that sits in an account is never really doing nothing. Section 3. Here is the part nobody tells you about. That $12,000 David handed over is not just gone. It is sitting somewhere, doing something, and that something is not helping David at all. Think about what money can do when you hold on to it. If David had kept that $12,000 in his own account and put it into something simple, like a high-yield savings account or a money market fund, even a safe and boring one, it could earn interest. A conservative return of about 4% a year on $12,000 comes out to roughly $480 over that same 6-month stretch, closer to $240 for half a year. That is real money. David gave up the moment he handed over his lump sum. He is not earning it. His landlord is holding it instead, for free, with no interest paid back to David at all. That is the first hidden cost. It is called opportunity cost, and it means every dollar you hand over early is a dollar that stops working for you and starts sitting idle somewhere else. David basically gave his landlord an interest-free loan. The landlord gets to hold that cash, maybe even invest it themselves, while David gets nothing extra for trusting them with it. But there is a second layer, and this one is heavier. What happens if something goes wrong? What if the landlord decides to sell the building halfway through the lease? What if the landlord passes away, or a dispute comes up about the property, or the new owner does not honor the old agreement? Getting that upfront rent money back is not simple. It can mean lawyers, court dates, months of waiting, and sometimes tenants never get the full amount back at all. This is not a story about David making a bad choice. David did what almost every renter is taught to do. The real problem sits above him, in a rental system that treats a full year, or even 6 months, of interest-free cash as a normal thing to ask a tenant for, with very little protection if things go wrong. Priya, without even planning for all of this, ended up protected from both of these risks, just by paying a little at a time. Section 4. Now let's flip the story and look at it the honest way, with all the hidden costs added back in. David paid $12,000 up front. That number never changes. It is fixed. But we now know that money could have earned him about $240 in a safe account over 6 months. So the real cost to David, once you count what he gave up, is closer to $12,240, not $12,000 flat. Priya paid $13,800 in total across her 6 monthly payments. That number looked bigger the whole time, but Priya was not sending her landlord her full year of cash on day 1. She was holding on to most of it, month after month, and that unspent money was also sitting in her own account, quietly earning a little return too, even if it was small, since it was only held a short time before each payment went out. Once you weigh both sides properly, the gap between David and Priya shrinks a lot. David's real cost, $12,240, against Priya's $13,800, still shows David ahead by about $1,500. But that is only counting the money. It does not count the risk. David handed over 6 months of trust in one single moment. with no way to pull back if something went wrong with the landlord or the property. Priya never had more than 1 month of exposure at any point. If her landlord tried something dishonest, or the building changed hands, or a dispute came up, Priya could simply stop paying and walk away, only ever risking 1 month's rent instead of 6. That protection is worth something too, even if it never shows up as a clean number on paper. Priya kept her money moving, kept her options open, and kept her risk small the entire time. David kept his money still, locked away, and fully exposed the whole 6 months. So when you add up the real cost, the lost returns, and the risk each person carried, Priya's plan was not the expensive one. It was the safer one, and in some ways, the smarter one. Section 5. Now stretch this same pattern across 10 years of renting, because that is how long most people actually stay in the rental game before buying a home or moving on. If David keeps prepaying every single year, and Priya keeps her monthly plan, staggering her payments and holding on to the rest of her cash for as long as she can, the small gap from year 1 does not stay small. It compounds. Each year, David gives up around $960 in lost interest, since he hands over a full year of rent up front and earns nothing on that money while it sits with his landlord. That may sound small on its own, but add it up year after year, and by year 5, David has quietly given away almost $5,000 in opportunity cost alone. By year 10, that number climbs past $9,500 just from lost interest, not even counting any bad luck with a landlord dispute along the way. Priya's path looks different. She pays a little more each month, yes, but she never stops holding most of her own cash. If she takes the extra money she is not handing over early and puts it into a simple account, earning a steady return, that money keeps growing on itself, year after year. By year 5, her small pile of savings has grown into real money. By year 10, with compounding working quietly in the background the whole time, her total advantage over David's approach can climb to somewhere between $13,000 and $15,000. That is the real gap. Not the $1,800 difference we saw back in Section 1. A gap that, over 10 years of renting, can grow into enough money for a car down payment, a strong emergency fund, or a serious head start on a home deposit. None of this happened because David made a foolish choice. It happened because he followed the standard advice everyone gives: pay up front, get it over with, without ever being told what that money could have been doing instead. 10 years of that habit is the difference between just renting and quietly building wealth while you rent. Section 6. Now, to be fair to David, his choice was not foolish. It deserves a real look too. Some landlords simply will not budge. They want the full year, or at least 6 months, up front, and they will not even talk about a monthly plan. In a tight rental market, where good apartments get snapped up fast, tenants sometimes have no room to negotiate at all. If David's landlord only accepts one option, then David never really had a choice the way Priya did. He paid the way he had to, not because he did not know better. There is also the discount itself. Many landlords genuinely reward tenants who pay in full. That discount is real. David is not imagining the lower total rent, and in some cases that discount can be bigger than the 15% premium we used in our example, which would shrink or even erase the gap between him and Priya. Then there is something harder to put a number on, but just as real. Peace of mind has value too. David does not lie awake worrying about a rent payment due next week. He does not have to budget carefully every single month to make sure the rent gets paid on time. That mental space, that freedom from a recurring bill, is worth something to a lot of people, even if it does not show up on a spreadsheet. Stress has a cost too, just one that is harder to measure in dollars, and not everyone has the discipline that this whole comparison assumes. Priya's advantage only works if she actually takes the money she is not spending and puts it somewhere it can grow. If she just lets that money sit in a regular checking account, or worse, spends it on other things, all her advantage disappears, and she is simply left paying more for the exact same apartment. So David's approach is not a mistake. It is a reasonable choice for someone who cannot negotiate, values simplicity, or trusts a landlord's discount over the slow grind of managing smaller payments every month. The real problem is not David's decision. It is that most renters never get shown the numbers behind either choice, so they are never actually choosing. They are just doing what everyone else does. Section 7. So when does paying upfront actually come out ahead? There are a few clear cases. The first is the size of the discount itself. If the annual discount is big enough, bigger than about 8 or 10% compared to paying monthly or quarterly, then the upfront option can beat out even the lost interest and the extra risk. In our example, the premium was 15%, which made Priya's plan competitive. But if David's landlord only charges 5 or 6% extra for staggered payments, David's upfront choice wins clearly, even after counting lost interest. The second case is about the person, not the numbers. This whole comparison only works if Priya actually protects the extra cash she is holding on to. If she puts it into a savings account or a simple investment and leaves it alone, she wins. But if she is the kind of person who sees extra money sitting in her account and spends it on things she does not need, then all her advantage disappears. In that case, paying everything up front, even at a worse rate, can actually protect someone from themselves. Locking the money away with the landlord becomes a kind of forced discipline, even if it is not the most efficient one. The third case is about the landlord. If the landlord has managed the same building for many years, has a clear paper trail, is registered with a proper management company, and has a track record other tenants can confirm, the risk of losing that upfront money to a dispute or a sudden change in ownership drops a lot. A well-managed property with a long-standing owner is simply safer to trust with a big upfront payment than a small landlord with no track record and no formal oversight. So the real answer is not that one method always wins. It depends on the discount rate, the tenant's own money habits, and how trustworthy and stable the landlord actually is. When all three line up in David's favor, a big discount, a landlord you can trust, and a person who is not going to grow that extra cash anyway, paying up front can be the smart move. But when none of those things are true, the standard advice to just pay a year up front can quietly cost a renter far more than they ever realize. Section 8. Before you agree to pay a full year or even 6 months up front, run this quick check first. Step 1. Find your break-even number. Take the discount your landlord is offering for paying up front and compare it to what you could earn keeping that money in a savings account or money market fund instead. If the discount is smaller than what you would lose in interest and safety, the upfront deal is not actually saving you money, it just looks that way. Step 2. Always ask for a staggered plan before you agree to anything. Many landlords never offer quarterly or monthly terms because tenants never ask. The worst they can say is no. Some will say yes just to keep a good tenant, or will meet you halfway with a smaller upfront amount instead of the full year. Step 3. If you do end up paying a large sum up front, get it documented properly. Get a signed receipt, a clear tenancy agreement, and if possible, proof of who actually owns the property. This will not remove all the risk, but it gives you something to stand on if a dispute ever comes up. Step 4. If you choose the staggered route like Priya, do not let that extra cash just sit, doing nothing. Put it somewhere it can grow, even a small amount, so the plan actually works the way it is supposed to. Here is the real trap in all of this. It was never really about David or his landlord. The real trap is a rental culture that has normalized handing over months of interest-free cash to someone else and calling it convenience. Nobody stops to ask why the tenant is always the one extending trust and never the one earning anything for it. So next time your landlord asks for a year up front, or even 6 months, ask yourself one simple question. Are you really getting a discount, or are you just giving someone a free loan and calling it rent?